Well, big developments are happening on the proposed India-Pakistan series front. India today was the first, remember, to reveal how a bilateral series is almost certain, considering the BCCI has no option but to honour the MoU signed with the PCB. So what's the real deal with the MoU? What are the inside details? With N. Srinivasan at the helm back then, was resuming cricketing ties the only agenda behind signing this MoU? What you're about to hear is an India Today exclusive.
This is an exclusive copy of the MoU that has put the BCCI in dire straits. The MoU was signed in 2014 between the then BCCI Secretary Sanjay Patel and then PCB Chairman Najam Sethi. And this has put the current BCCI dispensation in a fix. Firstly, the MoU signed is enforceable, and that means India will have to play Pakistan at a neutral venue. Also, since the series is a part of ICC's FTP, the governing body's new chairman Shashank Manohar will have to honour it. But what does the current BCCI regime want? They are opposed to playing at a neutral venue, especially the UAE. Hence, Manohar is likely to suggest Bangladesh or Sri Lanka as venues for the series. So how did the world's strongest and richest board end up being in this spot? Well, it's all down to one man, N. Srinivasan. Initially, the PCB opposed the Big Three amendment in ICC's constitution. But to get it past, Srinivasan arm-twisted and blackmailed the PCB. How? In return for PCB support, BCCI promised them a bilateral series. The MoU with India today shows how Srinivasan clearly threatened the PCB, saying the series will not happen if they don't accept the Big Three amendment. So all eyes will now be on the crucial meet between Shashank Manohar and Shahryar Khan in Dubai on Sunday. It's a wait and watch game now. Sports Bureau, India Today.
Consulting editor Boria Majumdar is now joining us with more details. So Boria, what are we likely to see from here on? What is the BCCI likely to do in this scenario?
Very little, Maha. As you can see from this MoU, the BCCI is now in a spot. Let me also add to what you have already said, that the BCCI did not even have a copy of this MoU till 2 days back. Then they finally got a copy of this MoU. It was in the ICC, and obviously in the ICC, Shashank Manohar has recently taken over. So the BCCI has got a copy of this MoU 2 days back in the meeting at the cricket centre. And in that meeting, they sort of realized that they had absolutely no option but to honour this MoU, and the series will have to be now played in a neutral venue. Tomorrow, from what I understand from my sources in the ICC and BCCI, Mr. Manohar is likely to suggest that why don't we play in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, because UAE is a hub of betting. Having said that, a neutral venue is now almost a definite possibility, because you have to honour this, otherwise it is legally enforceable against the BCCI.
Boria, what is hard to understand really is that how is it that the present dispensation was totally unaware of this MoU, and when it was being signed, was there anybody else who was in the know, anyone who could have objected perhaps to it?
Very, very good question. Because nothing of this was even mentioned in a working committee or annual general body meetings of the BCCI. At that point in time, N. Srinivasan was the president, Sanjay Patel was the secretary, Shivlal Yadav was the interim president. And obviously, if you read those lines in the MoU, there are three important factors as far as I'm concerned. One, that there will be no bilateral cricket with Pakistan unless they sign they support the ICC's restructuring, which made Mr. Srinivasan chairman, which made BCCI, gave BCCI a sort of monopoly. So it was a kind of blackmail. It was clearly blackmail. Obviously, no money changed hands, but in return of Pakistan's loyalty and Pakistan's vote in the ICC, what Mr. Srinivasan offered them was 6 bilateral series in 8 years. Now, this raises serious questions, Maha, about ICC's governance, about how the world game was being run, about ethical standards in the ICC. And Shashank Manohar now, who has taken over, is left with no option but to honour this MoU, which is legally enforceable.
Boria, also the question here arises that the Indo-Pak series is always contentious, not just, because it's about two countries playing each other, because it is about India and Pakistan playing, despite the fact that India continues at the political front and at the international relations front continues to say that terror emanating from Pakistan's soil has not stopped, and to resume cricketing ties under those circumstances might not be correct. So it's a more complicated issue really.
It is a complicated issue. Having said that, we do play Pakistan in international tournaments. We played Pakistan at the World Cup. We We have played Pakistan in multinational tournaments. So it's not as if India doesn't have diplomatic or sporting relations with Pakistan. We play football, we play tennis, we play hockey. We invite Pakistan to play the T20 World Cup on Indian soil. So clearly there is sporting relations. Question is whether the tour will be in Pakistan or in India. No, it will not be. India Today can now confirm to its viewers that the BCCI proposition of holding the tour in India has gone out of the window.
Okay.
This MoU now clearly puts the BCCI in a serious spot of bother because it's the BCCI president who is also chairman of the ICC. And as chairman of the ICC and being a legal luminary, he will have to honor this. Now, if he honors this, what is his option? His option is to agree to playing in a neutral venue, which can be UAE, which can be Sri Lanka, which can be Bangladesh. Now, we will find out after the meeting between Shahryar Khan and Shashank Manohar tomorrow. But at this point in time, there are three things that are clear. One, ICC, Mr. Chair Srinivasan as ICC chairman blackmailed the PCB into submission. Clearly, for return of votes, bilateral series was put up as bait. Now that is coming to haunt India big time. Now the BCCI is at a receiving end and will have to agree to PCB's demand of playing the series in a neutral venue.
Also, Boria, please help us understand why was PCB blackmailed into this?
Because PCB was unwilling to give powers or make India, England and Australia the real arbiters of world cricket. At this point in time, Maha, it is a world game, but there are three countries that dominate. They get, and when I say dominate, what do I mean? We get 70% of the ICC's money. All of the revenues of the ICC, 70% goes to India, Australia and England. Now that is the restructuring that all of the other boards were opposing. Now ICC's restructuring could have only gone ahead if 7 out of the 10 votes were in the BCCI's kitty. Now to get the 7 votes, you had to have the PCB. Now to get the PCB, bilateral series was put up as bait. They were blackmailed saying there will be no cricket with Pakistan unless you agree to this restructuring.
All right, all right. Nikhil Chopra is also present with us on the phone line. Boria, we'll just go across to him now. Nikhil, how do you view this entire unfolding of the situation now that you're seeing here with Shashank Manohar being left with almost no choice but to go ahead with that match between the two countries, considering there was an MoU and BCCI legally bound perhaps to go ahead with that series?
Well, I said, before Mr. Manohar took over, if a document's been signed and, the ICC being the custodians of the game knew about it and is signed under the MoU, there's not a lot any board can do. So I guess for Mr. Manohar, he has no choice to go ahead and to play the bilateral series at a neutral venue. There's not a lot he can do.
Nikhil, also, Boria was telling us about the likely venues because as it's very evident now, and you and Boria both saying that there's nothing that can be done. UAE, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, some of the options there, what would perhaps be best if the series has to go ahead and if India wants to put its best foot forward, which venue would suit India best then?
I guess, with certainly Sri Lanka, if it is an option because of the two boards have good relations with each other. I see a possibility there, but I have a feeling that most probably it is going to be the UAE because Australia has played there, England's played there, and Pakistan of late has made it their own home ground. So I have a feeling, UAE, Pakistan is going to be pressing for. But if there's a possibility, I wouldn't mind playing the series at Sri Lanka because of the two nations. They have good ties. There's a lot that goes up when you're playing a bilateral series in terms of wickets and how you want to make. It makes a big difference.
Right, absolutely. But one thing is absolutely clear now that former BCCI President N. Srinivasan perhaps blackmailed the PCB into signing that MoU, and now the new BCCI President Shashank Manohar has no moving space and he has to agree because that MoU is a legally binding piece of document. Many thanks, Boria and Nikhil, for getting us the latest.